Okay, we're meeting to talk about our second meeting together, or the third meeting together actually, for the COP. And on this one, we're going to talk about the vision statement. The vision statement is, it is a vision of Vista del Lago High School to create a culture of excellence. That's our vision statement. I mean, that's our mission statement. Our vision statement is, the vision of Vista del Lago is to create a collaborative culture of excellence through academic rigor, instructional practices, and technology, so that students can apply academic knowledge, critical thinking, and communication skills in their future lives in the global community. Okay, and Ms. Monique, you want to talk about what our norms are?
Sure. Our norms are to give the person speaking your full attention and try not to make comments until they are done. Remain present and participate.
And then we're going to use this as a microphone as I pass it around. The PBIS coach is coming from the district level tomorrow, so we're trying to get something together for the PBIS team to introduce to her. So Ms. Alvarado, who's the chair of that committee, had sent this out, and it's talking about, it's like a little outline of stuff that's in this restorative book right here. So it's talking about the minor infractions that the staff manages and the major infractions that the administrators actually have to cover. So if you guys want to look at those for a minute, and we can just maybe talk a little bit about if we think we can implement this stuff. And then Ms. Monique is going to talk about some of the stuff that they're doing at her other sites that she's working at, as far as in this book for the check-in and the check-out. We also have these restorative practice cards that come with this book, and it has questions like, what happened, what were you thinking at the time, what have you thought about since, who has been affected by what you've done, in what ways, what do you think you need to do to make things right. So this is kind of like this whole thing is talking about apologizing, and then the restorative circles where the people are talking to each other that have been affected, the two that are actually having a confrontation, and then the other people that are also being affected. So the purpose of this whole thing is to try to tie in these books to tier 1 and tier 2 and 3, because we've already got tier 1 down, but now we have to introduce tier 2 and tier 3. So Mr. Adams, you got anything you want to say about these?
Yeah, just looking at this, there's a couple of things I like. First of all, the staff managed stuff. I like that it's tied to the Raven values: R for respect, A for achieve, B for value, E for engage, N for never give up, and S for succeed. It's something we tell them every single day, so having this tied to the students and understanding what they need to do, and the teachers, it kind of gives them an easy way of recognizing, hey, this is where our problem area is, and it's something I think the students can understand. As far as the major problems, I like alternatives to suspension. I think that's really proactive. Obviously, suspension, for the most part, doesn't really help the student who's the offender. Just gets them out of school for a couple days, they get behind, and in the classroom, it can even lead to potentially them having more problem behaviors because they feel like they're lost, they don't know what to do. Idle hands, it can cause problems for them. So I like the idea of taking away activities or Saturdays, school or counseling, especially restorative practices like you talked about. Something that helps fix the problem, doesn't create a secondary problem on top of it. I think that's really good. And finally, one thing that stuck out to me here is the inclusion, and it's something that should be expected for all of us, but the reminder that even if a student does make a mistake, they make a misstep, they should come in with a clean slate every single day. I think that's a great way to approach it. You can't hold a grudge. It's unnecessary. You don't want them to hold a grudge. You want them to come to class. You don't want them easing into class every day, looking to see if you're there. I want them, and we should all want them to feel like they belong at the school and in the classroom, and I think that's a good way to get engagement. The more engagement we have, I think the less problem behavior we're going to see. So I like that side of it. I like the minor, the major. I like a lot of the bullet points that are included here, and I think this is overall a good structure to have.
With the alternate to suspension, one of the recommendations that we installed was Saturday school, and that also includes multiple tardy, and as part of our PBIS to lessen the tardy, we also can not suspend and go to Saturday school. The only thing that we need to discuss later on is what happened if students fail to come to Saturday school or get too many Saturday schools to the point where it's like, okay, I think we need to actually do the actual physical form of suspension rather than every single Saturday the same kid had to keep on coming. And that will be further discussion next time, because it could just be seen as a privilege to be Saturday school rather than a suspension.
Sounds good.
Thank you. But yes, I agree with both points. Suspension now is actually looked at as free day from school, essentially. So there's no educational benefit to that for the student, and it doesn't help with the attendance or classroom behaviors to just say be off campus. I like the bullet points on this for minor and major because they play into positive reinforcement, which is what we're looking for in the classrooms. That coupled with the Ravens bucks that are being handed out, which fall into all of the behavioral aspects of what we're trying to correct in the classroom with the respect, achieve values, engagement, and so forth. I think this is great and will actually lead into the things that we're trying to practice as far as check-in, check-out, classroom norms, and things of that nature.
Let's go ahead and go into like the check-in, check-out, because that's part of the stuff that's in here, the circles and all that. And what I also like in here about the circles is it's circles for staff to teach circles. So I think when we are actually introducing it to the rest of the staff, we should probably give a circle, because it kind of says that it helps when you actually do that. So, sounds good to me. So for the check-in and check-out, we did do with one of our students that had a lot of issues. We had the check-in, check-out type of thing, sent the notes home and the notes coming back and all that. That actually did help him, but he's left now. So Ms. Monique's going to give us some ideas of what they're doing at some other sites that sounded really good for the check-in and check-out. So you want to tell us about that and we can comment on those?
Thank you. To piggyback off of what you just said about sending check-in, check-out type sheets home with the student and so forth, the measures that we take in the classroom actually take place prior to even getting to that point, so essentially to remove having to get the parents involved and more or less building that rapport in the classroom between the teacher and the student. So we do certain check-in methods, very simplistic, a thumbs up, middle, or down, right when we're at the door, so you can kind of gauge where the student is at, whether having a great day, so-so, or not good at all. And then that way you can kind of assess how you're going to deal with that individual in the classroom setting, or if maybe you notice, okay, maybe this won't be the best environment for them because they aren't having the best of days. So then at that point you can call in other reinforcements or get other resources for that student. It's just a measure to take prior to the class even starting, so you have a sense of where you're at prior to getting involved in your lesson plan.
And I think that's a good idea, because we did the capturing students' hearts, and then we were shaking kids' hands at the door and all that kind of stuff. But when you have a lot of students, that's kind of hard. But if you just told them, like when you come in, like give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down type of thing, I think that's kind of feasible. What do you think, Mr. Adams?
Yeah, I use that a lot. The thumbs up, thumbs down, just to check for understanding in general. Do you understand? Do you not understand? So I think taking that and are you having a good day, a bad day, is useful, and it's part of building rapport. Usually when at the door, I always talk to them, hey, how you doing? I use their name when they come inside, let them feel that I know who you are, you're not invisible in the classroom in a good way, or potentially where problem behavior is in a bad way. So I think it'd be very easy to add on, hey, how you doing today? Coach Zapp, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, how you doing? Yada yada. I think that's a good way to get them engaged, and how they're feeling on the way in. And for me personally, a lot of students, they'll tell me, I'm having a bad day today. I tell them, okay, I'm going to lower my expectations for today. If we were supposed to do this much, having a bad day, take it easy. You're still required to do something. It's not nap time, but everyone's allowed to have a bad day. Lord knows I have enough, that you're allowed to take it easy sometimes. So I think that's a fantastic method.
It's a bit hard for me in PE to do thumbs up, thumbs down, because we have so many PE kids, and there's other PE students out there too that just become like, okay, why is everyone putting their thumbs up even if we don't know what's going on? So in my case, it's more like I give them an extra medical day where it's like, oh, I don't feel like dressing now, my stomach hurts, but instead of us asking a question like what's really going on or this, we just say, okay, medical, doesn't count against you, nothing like this. You just grab a little bucket, a little trash picker, go around, pick trash up, so that way you still get some of your credit in there. If you're having a bad day, they just use the medical. If they don't feel like they're up to it and they're not really sick, they can just use the medical and then pick up the trash can and just pick up some trash.
What do you think about the check out, the stuff that you're using in the change your words, change your mindset thing?
Yes. So upon checkout, you want to kind of set the tone for the student leaving your class and potentially going into the next period. So you're helping the student leave your class on a positive note, but hopefully go into their next period on that same note, so it helps the next person out as well. Basically what we do is we do what's called change your word, change your mindset, or growth mindset, which is basically negative comments and spinning them into a positive comment. So for examples, we have I'm a failure, and then to spin that so it's not a negative, it's a positive, it would be I didn't do well this time, but I'll try harder next time. Or I give up, this is too hard. Did I really do my best work, or is this something that maybe I need to put more time into? So just trying to take the negative aspect and turning it into a positive. Also getting the understanding from the students, how did they feel about today's class session, which can tie into your classroom norms as well. So that way adjustments can be made, and you're hearing the student is hearing you, but the student also sees that you actually do care enough to put in that effort and ask what their input is. So we do that, and we also do positive affirmations. So the positive affirmation would be to myself, and then we have to pay it forward to another student. So that way I'm building myself up, and then I'm building my peer up as well, and building relationships within the classroom as well.
Well, for like capturing kids' hearts again, I do like give the send off, I guess that's what they call it in that, where you're saying, you know, like have a good day, that kind of stuff. And when the kids would come in, I'd ask them like, is there anything special, like at the weekend? Maybe you say, did anything special happen during the weekend? So we kind of do that kind of stuff to build a rapport. But I kind of like this to where it's, I'm going to do this in my class too, where it's we're actually doing these, change your words, change your mindset. We're going to actually try to do that, see how that works. What do you guys think?
I'm in the same boat. A lot of like, hey, how are you doing? Have a good day. But I think the idea of adding it on and restructuring how we approach problems. I have one student right now struggling in his math class. He tells me, like, there's no way I'm going to pass this. And I'm like, well, no way you're going to pass it today, but give it a couple weeks and, you know, you'll be doing a lot better. And I think it's important that he keeps an eye on that. And I have a lot of students like that where, oh, there's no way I can pass this. And I'm telling him, I know you're going to pass it because if college depends on it, I know you're a strong student. You're going to get it done. Here's some resources, we can help you out. And over time, he's like, yeah, you know what, you're right. So I think something like this is extremely effective. We can use it more in the day-to-day. And I think over time, students will naturally stop saying, I give up, and they'll start saying, I could do better. Or maybe they'll stop saying, you know, this is too hard, but instead say, you know, it's going to take a little bit more time. So I think it's going to be very effective.
With me, I don't do too much of that encouragement because I got too many of the kids to go about that. It won't be fair that I won't have enough time for each one. So instead, what we do, we just separate everyone into little teams in my class. Like Team A, go over here. Team B, you run on the opposite side. Team C, you go on this direction, and D goes over there. And it's more like every single time, this will be your chance to talk with each of your teammates to see what's going on, how can we improve. This kid's not running that fast, so we'll keep him in the back, and we won't go too fast. So that way it's not more of the left behind act in a sense. So that way, if the kid is too far, everyone slows down so he can catch up, and then you're all running that as a unit per se. And if you have issue with the push-up, the sit-up, everyone's there to help you out and accommodate, to like give you some encouragement. Because with PE, it's more structured in the classroom, except that we're not in the classroom, so it's harder for us to be more one-on-one with a specific kid.
So, looking through this book, I highlighted a couple of things that I thought was interesting. And this feedback loop, I really like this. It said, that's kind of like piggybacking on that a little bit. It says, what accomplishments have you made in this class the past month? Who is someone in this class who worked hard this week? So you're affirming somebody else. What is the most useful thing you've learned this year? Who is someone who's helped you? What is something you know how to do that you didn't know how to do last year? Say something positive about a member of the class. So I kind of like that too, the feedback loop. So what do you think about that? Is that kind of like the same thing as you're talking about?
Definitely. It's exactly that, actually.
Okay.
Because you're allowing the feedback to be universal. From the student to themselves, and then from the student to another person, which could actually bridge the gap between the students in the classroom, but also bridge the gap between the students and the teacher. You know, everybody loves a positive affirmation, more so than negative, of course. So to give that, I mean, that could build character, that could build someone's self-esteem. You never know what a compliment can do. And so, yeah, I think that's exactly that.
Travis.
Yeah, I think this is a big thing about having students that feel part of a classroom is the positive affirmations about each other and themselves. Luckily, my students, and I feel like in general, most kids are pretty positive, so it doesn't take much to get them on the track of helping each other out. Probably hear you clapping coming from my classroom like all the time. We clap about everything, I swear.
Well, that's
And
cool.
It's
I like
really
it.
positive,
I do
you
hear
know?
that.
And people are really happy for each other. We have a wheel spin we use in my classroom, so if they do something fun, we get to, or something good, they spin the wheel and get some kind of reward based on that. Nobody's jealous of somebody else getting a reward, which is really lovely to see. Everyone's just happy and hyped up for them. So I think we could definitely take that idea of affirmation and just continue to spin that in my class. And it's something I feel like there's already there, but definitely something we can add more of.
Well, on PE, we're mostly positive. No book work, just run here and there. The only negative feedback we'll get is there's too much running, but at the same time, it's like you're focused more on the running rather than the conditioning, the basketball, the football, the soccer, the cone running, or something else like that. Everyone just thinks it's always running. No, we have some fun activities, some teamwork and whatnot, and positive feedbacks that we get is they want a little bit more of the exercise rather than more fun time, because the faster you get, the better you're going to get. So it's a little mixed review on feedback for us, but in general sense, I think we're getting a good handle of how to handle feedback, because sometimes the students don't give feedback because they're scared of what the repercussion is, but at the same time, you're actually helping improving the class for either the next semester or the next school year for the incoming freshman classes.
Okay, just finish up on so what we're gonna end up doing is tomorrow at the meeting we'll go ahead and we'll start talking about some of these things. We'll bring up some of that stuff that Ms. Monique said, and then when we reconvene again, we'll tell you what the coach said, and then like where we can go from there. So that hopefully we'll have more of a focus on where we're at and where she wants us to be at, and then we can move forward. Any closing comments or the report?
Yeah, I'll close with the report. So just about what we're talking about, obviously about minor and major problems in the classroom, PBIS behaviors, how to address those both individually as an entire class, and then if they get too significant, how to deal with them instead of alternatives to to suspension. I started by talking about the Raven values, how I like that they're attached to these minor ideas of what they should and shouldn't be doing in a way to keep students on track. I also mentioned I like alternatives to suspension, including Saturday school, things that keep students out of missing days of class and school and get them to some other way to hold them accountable for their actions, but not to be punitive in punishments. Coach Zapp mentioned that Saturday school is an effective tool, but what happens if they don't show up all the time? I think is a good question we need to ask. If our consequences aren't useful, if they're not teaching them, and if they're not being effective, so what are we doing to remedy that? And should suspension be an issue if they're not showing up to Saturday school? We also talked about attention in the classroom behaviors that are affected, and the use of affirmation to build each other up. We also included using new ways of talking. So our check-ins, we talked about a thumbs up, thumbs sideways, a thumbs down. The check-out, talk to them about their day, make sure that they understand everything's going on, get them ready for the next class. Reusing and retooling their academic vocabulary. Instead of saying I failed, say I could do better next time. Instead of saying I can't do this, say I can't do this yet, as a way to prep them for a more positive atmosphere, make them feel like they belong. Finally, a big thing that we talked about was accommodation for class size. Coach Zapp mentioned that in PE it wouldn't be appropriate to always be individually affirming people, because with such a large class size it just wouldn't work. Somebody would feel left out. So I think that's a question we should approach potentially in the future about that, but at least what we can do, we talked about students affirming each other. So we're not just giving it to them, we give it to one person, they spread, and then it's a blossom of good emotions and feelings. As far as that, we wrapped up just discussing the small problems with minor and major issues on this, but it seems like everyone's on board with that. And I feel like that pretty much covers everything, unless there's anything anybody wants to do.
Do you have any other final comments, Ms. Monique? So we're adjourned, or what are we?
So this is video number 2. We started the meeting at 3:45 p.m. and we'll be concluding it at 4:10 p.m. I said video number 2 because video number 1 we ran into a technical error. It stopped halfway, so we had to restart our meeting so that way it was recorded in entirety.
All right, thank you very much, and I think that concludes it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.